Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
Hello and welcome to the Better Your Business Show. Here we discuss your most important business challenges and provide you with practical solutions to help you better your business.
Now, if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, mompreneur, any kind of preneur, then you have goals. You're an overachiever. You have dreams and aspirations. What you may not have is access to experts that are willing to give you bite-sized pieces structured out in a step-by-step format to help you achieve those goals.
You know, when we all started out as entrepreneurs and we started our businesses, and this is true for our audience as well, the one thing that you're not handed is an instruction manual. So you kind of go off into different directions trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And then in that, you have all these different struggles and obstacles. The goal of the show is to break down these roadblocks, turn them into building blocks so that you can build a sustainable business.
Yes, so whether you're joining us live or watching the replay, make sure you go to pillar5.com to get your free business assessment and then join us live in our virtual studio where we can address your comments and concerns.
Absolutely. And we don't have any guests today, but we'd like to invite you to be one of our guests so that you can come on to the show. You get to promote your business and you get to ask our experts questions that can help you grow your business to the next level.
Awesome, guys. I'm totally excited, super excited about today's guest. Today we have business development coach, captain connoisseur, chief everything, Collette Portis. Who's going to help us do a deep dive on today's topic. What is today's topic, by the way, Natalie? What are we going to go into?
So today's topic is on product and market research. So Carlson, let's get started with you. What do you think of when you hear this topic?
I think terrified. I'm scared. I have to go back in my mind 6 years ago when we first started building pillar5.com. When we started building that product, we didn't know if the market would want it. Even though it's a solution to help a person build a business to a sustainable level, that doesn't mean that they want it, because it's not shiny, it's not fancy, it's not something that, it's not a Facebook, it's not all your friends aren't there. It's something that helps your business. But from a entrepreneur's perspective, do they want it? Are they going to be interested in the solution? Is it something they want? And that's where the product and service demand research comes into play, because you may create the next best back scratcher, but if nobody cares to have a back scratcher, then you've created something that has no value to the market. So you may waste your time, your energy, your resources, in building a product that has no market need. Mm-hmm. Great application, but no need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Tehran?
Yeah, and just piggybacking on what you're saying, especially coming from sales. Man, in sales, it doesn't matter whether the customer needs the product or doesn't. Your tactics are going to get them to say yes. It's about getting them to say yes to it. So it really just helps me look at the perspective change when you're trying to solve a problem versus selling a product. When you solve a problem and you're providing a solution to somebody who has a current problem, well, by default, you're going to be able to profit from that if you just attach, something monetary to it. Versus just having a product and just trying to sell the product as much as you can, or the power of the product or the power of the service versus, well, there are people who have a problem. We always liken it to the Band-Aid scenario. Why would I stand here with a Band-Aid and explain to you if you fall, how it can help you out when somebody's across the street and they're bleeding out? I can just go over there and solve that problem. The transaction is automatic. So yeah, I think it's huge to focus on the end user first. I think it affects everything in the business.
Right. Well, it's what's going to keep you in business long-term anyways, right? The sustainability in business. the trends in the marketplace. How do I survive those trends in the marketplace if I don't have a product that's sustainable, right? And so it shows us where we need to either shift what we're offering or change our product at that time. Because if we're looking for long term and we have a product maybe that's seasonal, what do we do in that off season to stay in business? So the market trends product research is extremely important to keep your business going long term, definitely.
Awesome. You know, Natalie, you're in the financial world. And so obviously dealing with end users is a big proponent of your business. I mean, just like it is for us at Pillar 5 and I Do Systems. But with you, yours is directly related to the end user in a way. Without research or market demand, then your product isn't relevant. How does that impact you, especially in the state of COVID today? How is that? How did your market demand research 2 years ago help you today?
Well, money is something that we use every day, right? So that definitely helps my market, but also knowing those trends in the marketplace. Being in financial planning, part of that is having those tools and resources. So no matter what's going on in the economy, I just have to take a different tool out of my belt, right? I just have the resources when it comes to the finances. What's the tool that I need to use for that client in the situation that they're in now, and what's going on in the economy that can help with it? So no matter what, I just need to shift the tool that I'm using to be able to help them, which is important to me because I knew that was what was going to keep me in business long term, was having the options and being able to go with the flow when it came with those trends, being able to pivot, right? So to speak, the word for 2020, pivoting.
Right, right.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're actually going to come back with Collette Portis, do a deep dive, and really pull out some step-by-step perspective, mind frames, and actionable things that we can do to make sure we're focusing on our end user and the weight that has on the journey as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And we also want to give recognition to the LA Tribune, who is our collaboration partner on the creation of this show. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. So like Tehran said, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back with Collette. Oh, well.
The marketing pillar addresses the key marketing needs of your business and why they require groundwork and a consistent strategic sales process to take root. There are so many core business functions that stem from a good marketing plan that marketing can easily be considered the lifeline of a sustainable business. The marketing plan is relevant because without marketing, there's no brand and nothing a potential client or customer can relate his or her experience to. Marketing helps you inform, engage, and grow. And at the end of the day, no marketing means no sales. In addition to the more easily understood and applied areas of advertising a product or service, marketing actually begins with the product development, which needs to be in line with a clearly defined client or niche. This pillar draws on questions that will open your eyes to the idea that everything you do requires well-planned market research, followed by carefully designed alpha and beta testing. The brand is also a crucial marketing component upon which all other sales components rest. Do you have a recognizable brand? And have you invested in a focus group to ensure you are meeting the needs of your target market? Many times, these areas of marketing are forgotten or entered into half-heartedly after business has launched. It is important to note that every time a product or service is created, it requires the same marketing diligence as the very first one to ensure sustainability of the product or service and the business itself. Without putting into practice all the elements of the marketing pillar, your business will not be able to sustain its presence in the marketplace. The marketing pillar is a compilation of these 6 components: client development, market test, marketing details, marketing review, technology details, and financial strategy.
All right. So welcome back. Very excited to have our guest with us today, Collette Portis. She is a coach. She's a speaker. She's an author. She's been a business strategist for over 20 years. So Collette, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here with us this morning. Our topic, product, market, and research, which over 20 years experience, I'm going to assume you have some thoughts and wisdom to share with us this morning on that.
Yes, and thank you for having me. I always love being in the room with these two good-looking guys on here because they give me life, and so it always makes me it always drives me and makes me do more. So you guys were talking about market research, and Natalie, you said something. You started talking about pivoting in the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff. And, one of the things that I always say is, how do you sell something if you don't know who you're selling it to? And if you think that you're selling it to everybody, you're actually selling it to nobody. And sometimes a pivot actually means a complete change, or a pivot could mean one small change. But if you don't have anything in place, if you don't have a plan in place, if you don't have your vision written down, steps set for how you're going to cause that vision to come forth, then how do you know what kind of change you need to create in your pivot? How do you know if it needs to be a complete pivot? Like one company that I believe they were making baseball gloves, they started making masks at the beginning of the pandemic. How do you know if your change should be that? Or how do you know whether or not your change should be, the coronavirus causes people to lose their thumbs, so now you got to make a 4-finger, glove? How do you know what your pivot should be if you, one, don't know who you're talking to, and two, you don't have a plan as to how you're going to communicate with them?
Awesome. So, Collette, let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit. When a person starts thinking about researching and this demand market research, where do they begin? Where does this start? At what point do they think about this?
It starts from the beginning. Trust me, it's one of the very first steps. The first step is determining whether or not you want to do this for real. And you want to give it a shot. And number two, then you want to give it a shot at what? What are you planning to offer the world? What are you great at? And then once you determine what you're great at and what you want to offer the world, then who do you want to offer it to? Who is going to be your favorite client or your ideal client? Who is that? And then, and only then, can you really start the research to determine whether or not they want what you have. Carl, you made a great point where you talked about, if nobody wants what you have, you might think it's important, but if nobody else thinks it's important, then again, you don't have a strong business model and you don't have a sustainable business. Well, you only know that if you first figure out who it is that I want to talk to. Because an example I give all the time, which I always love, especially when I'm talking to an audience, and somebody always says, well, everybody can buy my product. And I go, okay, well, if you were going to tell grandpa, your tech-savvy 15-year-old, and the 55-year-old in your family all how to go live on Facebook, is that one conversation or three? Everybody says it's three, right? But when we say we're going to sell a product to everybody, that's what you're doing. First of all, you got to give grandpa the history of the internet way before you can even get to Facebook. That's a 90-day conversation. Right. The 55-year-old, you got to spend 30 minutes with us before we can even figure out our password to get into Facebook. And then the tech-savvy 15-year-old already has you on Facebook Live making fun of you with this because you just learned this today and you think you're going to teach it to them. Completely different conversations. 15-year-olds say words like lit. If you say lit to grandpa, he has no idea what you're talking about. He's taking it way out of context.
He's going to think he's on fire.
Yeah. And then if you tell him we're going somewhere, grandpa's got his shoes and coat on. And he can't understand why all of you are younger than him and you're not ready yet. And he's ready to go. So you can't sell to everybody. It's just not a possibility. Can everybody buy your product? The answer is yes. But can you market and sell to everybody? The answer is no. Two different things.
So we're going to get close and personal. I'm going to bring you on up. So we can get all close and personal and fuzzy up in here. So you say you can't sell everybody. Okay, so how do I figure this out? Right? Let's just say I just created the next best lemonade ice popsicle in the world that warms you. Right? Whatever, something crazy, right? Everyone needs it because it's cold outside. So this popsicle is going to warm me up. Great. I need it. Does the world need it? Now, how do I begin that research? How do I go down that rabbit hole? Do I need to hire someone?
Well, no. First of all, you got to, now this is a step, especially small business owners, that we miss. And it's a huge step. And it's a step that could cause you to set yourself back 3 to 5 years if you don't do it. You got to do some market research. Let me tell you something. Your family is not your customer. Your friends are not your customer. They are your test market. They are the ones that you give things away to. We just bought a bunch of different branding items like these cups and these t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And I took a trip to Atlanta to see family and to do some business. You better know I took stuff. So now I've got family walking around in North Carolina and in Georgia and all over the place with my logo across their chest.
I don't have your logo.
You will very soon.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
You will very soon, right? They're your test market, because let me tell you something. Nobody is going to be more honest with you than your family. They keep us humble, and we cry because we feel like they don't support us. They don't buy it. They're not supposed to. You're supposed to give it to them and let them test it and let them be honest with you, because nobody's going to be more critical than they are. So that's step number one. And what you're going to find is not everybody in your family likes lemonade. Now, I think it's absurd not to like lemonade myself, but I'm just saying. Right. Everybody doesn't like lemonade. And so, okay, if you don't like lemonade, can you tell me, you might not like the flavor, but do you like the result that it gave you? That's something we never get to if we don't test our market. So, okay, I didn't like the flavor, but I love the fact that it warmed me up because I don't like being cold. Because what happens as entrepreneurs is a lot of times we'll go, oh, and it tastes like lemons. And we think that's our unique selling proposition. And it's not, because everybody doesn't like lemon. But if you tell me if Texas gets to 103 degrees again, this thing is going to warm you up. Let me tell you what I don't care about. I don't care that it tastes like lemon. What I care about is that it's going to warm me up. What is the thing about your product or service that the majority of people care about? You won't know that if you don't test your market.
Wow.
You know, very interesting perspective, Collette. Now, obviously, don't want to steal the mic, so everybody jump in as you will. But, you know, Collette, when we were building Pillar 5, I remember, you know, having this very same conversation with you, because we had built this very short 12-step assessment that figured out the ideal client, right? And then as I spoke with you and you began using it in your business, what we learned was there was more steps. There was more things that needed attention, not just this high level holistic view, which was my now score, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And so it just had these really simple questions, but it didn't really provide solutions. And I remember the one thing you kept saying to me is, Carl, you have to figure out a way to provide the solution. And of course, our solution was, well, get coaches, get coaches to be the user for the small business owner. But it made a shift in our development. We went from 12 steps to 115 steps. We went from focusing on a holistic view to focusing on a high level step-by-step guide to guide a person through sustainability. And just like Natalie in the financial work, there's certain things that she's done to change how she focuses on her end user. Natalie, share some about some of that stuff that you do on your side to help the end user in the way that Collette's saying, like the research that you all had to do.
Well, obviously, just looking at the trends in the marketplace, depending on, what the market's doing, if it's up, if it's down, what are people's biggest concerns, and then providing solutions based on those needs. And because it's full financial planning that we're doing, obviously it's like going to the doctors, we're doing that full evaluation of their finances, looking at, okay, what's most important to them right now? What do we need to get off the plate right now? Because it's also progressive, right? To help kind of stop the bleeding. And then where do we take it? Because it's something that we're, constantly working towards to help them with their finances. But again, going back to money, something we use every day, and then having access to, no matter what's going on in the economy, solutions that can still help that client. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So Collette, as you hear that, and I think about the small business owners, are they doing what Natalie's doing? Because I think when we started, one of the mistakes that we made was we did market research and we said, okay, this is it. We got it. We're done. We know who it is. And we walked off. and now we're going to focus on building what we were building, only to come back a year later and go, oh wait, we missed something. Now we have to reevaluate who our market is. Then we have to change. We have to get their feedback. We have to make the adjustments in our product and service. Then we have to price it accordingly. Then we have to do a whole new marketing plan. And then we have to do a whole new business plan. And then we have to go back out and launch. And here we are 5 years later, and we're doing it again. So are we doing it wrong because we consistently change? Or is that the right way? Should you constantly be involved in market research for your end user?
Change is inevitable. And if someone doesn't like change, entrepreneurship is not your space. We are changing all the time. The only reason you write a plan is to change it. And to know what changes you need to make. One of the things that we do with our clients is we do a 12-month strategic plan with them every single year. Every year. And because we do this, their revenues are out of the park. However, what we tell them is this is a living, breathing document. It is not a business plan. Let me make it clear. I personally do not believe that if you're in the first 1 to 3 years, up to 5 years of your business, you do not need to write a business plan. You have no idea who you're serving. You only need that if the bank is going to require that you have one so that they can give you some money. But what you really need is a strategic plan, the step-by-step instructions on how to get to where you're going. The military does not write a business plan when they're going to go take over some country, but they do have a strategy. Every single time, never fail. They know how many boots they need, bullets they need, how much food they need, how many soldiers they need, how many tanks they need. If you're a business owner and you're functioning and you don't know those answers, if you don't know how much money you need to function in your business every month, how do you ever get to a place where you can pay yourself? And people say, make sure you pay yourself first. Well, I made $15 this month. Pay myself with what?
Right.
I don't even know how much I need to make. I made $3,000 last month, but my business bank account is negative $200. How am I supposed to pay myself? Well, you don't know the key number. How much do you need every month in order for your business to function, move, and grow? Right. There's some specific things you have to answer in order to continue moving forward. But remember that moving forward is a change. Standing still requires no change. If you want to grow your business, you got to change from step 9 to step 10. If you don't like change, how are you going to make it? You're going to be at step 1 the entire time, and you can't grow your business in that way. So change is inevitable. You need to know that change has to happen, but you also need something that gives you some guidance and some direction on what change needs to happen. One of the things I say all the time is we hear people say, you need to have 7 streams of income. You need to have 10 streams of income. And people go and they start their t-shirt company, and then they sell chicken dinners on Sunday, and then they make cakes, and then they may have a makeup line, and then they have all of these things. That is not what multiple streams of income means. Not at all. Multiple streams of income means what is the center? What's the core of your business? And then how many revenue streams can you get from that? You see the book Goalie behind me, and you saw it in the commercial. When we publish, I have another company that's a publishing company. When we publish authors, we show them how they can make $1 million with one book. It is not by selling 1 million copies of the book, nor is it by becoming Amazon's #1 book. That doesn't necessarily make you any money, but what can you do with this one book, making it the core? And then what are the revenue streams off that? Can you get 10? Absolutely. Do you need 10? No. You don't want to focus on 10 things. If you give 10 things your focus, at best, you can give all of them 10% of your time. If on your job you did anything, only 10%, they're going to let you go because you're just not doing a good job.
Awesome. You know what? You brought up something that kind of hit a nerve. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this little debacle real quick with you. And you know what that is when you punch me in the belly and you say, don't nobody need no plan. They need a strategic plan. So, one of the big components of Pillar 5 is obviously creating what we call a one-page business plan. So before I go down this rabbit hole and become defensive with you, Miss Portis, all formal in the name, is it is it that they're labeling the plans incorrectly and they're saying, well, really a one-page business plan is the strategy plan. It's really not a plan. It's not the whole 100-page, 30-page write-up. It's just more of understanding the outlines of what you need to do. Or are you saying that the one-page business plan just has no value right now? You need to focus on strategy. And what's the difference of the two?
This is why I love Carl, because when we fight, then he calls me my formal name. But too bad, Carl, we not gonna fight today. How about that? No. Let me step back and say it's the traditional business plan that I believe you do not need until at minimum year 3, but most people don't need it till year 5. Where I've seen it at year 3, if you're a technology company like I do systems, you're going to need it at year 3 because you have to have an infusion of capital, and you need it for that piece specifically. But that people also need to know where this thing is going because technology moves so fast. But in general business outside of that, it's about year 5 that you need the traditional full 100-page, however many pages, business plan. Now, what you absolutely do need is the one-page business plan. That you need. But in order to have a solid one-page business plan, you need to have a good strategy first. Because if I say, if my business plan says that I'm going to, well, let's say my key metric is to generate $1.3 million. And then I get to this little spot where it talks about revenue. And I just did this the other day. It talks with a client. It talks about revenue. And so this client was selling their product, and the coaching program was a six-month program, and they were doing it for $299. Now, Carl already knows that number ain't ever going to work for Collette. Rather than say that number is too low, I can show them by working the numbers that they only have the potential to make $32,000 in that year. But their goal was 1.3 million. 32,000, 1.3 million is way different. But without their strategy, then I could say, let's go back to your strategy and see where you can make adjustments. Do these revenue streams that you have, do they make sense? Do they generate the right amount of revenue, especially compared to what your market is doing right now? And are these the best tools to use to generate revenue? Because if everybody sells t-shirts, you can throw a rock and hit 50 people right now who sell t-shirts. Then why would you sell t-shirts? Why wouldn't you sell wine? Right? Maybe wine, because there's only a handful of people that do that. So why wouldn't we do that and grow in the market where there is potential for growth instead of pegging ourselves into a market that's saturated? You need your business plan and your strategy in order to determine, is there market saturation, and then what products or services should I be offering to get to the 3 main objectives that I've set, that I've determined I want to help people get to. So yes, Carl, you need a one-page business plan. Come up with your strategy. And then at year 3 to 5 is when you build out the full business plan, because now the reason the full business plan is important, because you've built your team now, or you're starting to build your team now. And now you got to get buy-in for your vision and all of that. And now you can actually write an executive summary, because hopefully you're moving into the executive seat and you know what you want to happen over the next 3 years, 5 years, because now you're in that sweet spot where hopefully you've done your market research, you've tested your product for so long, you know exactly who you're talking to and who needs your service, when they need your service, because that's important too, and how they're going to use it. And now that you have those 3 answers, I can now build a plan to say, this is how we see this moving forward. This is how we're going to shift and change over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Because mostly when people say, what's your 3-year goal, your 5-year goal, your 10-year goal? It's just an additional step you're adding. It's not growth. It's not, this is how we're going to expand on this particular product or service so that it grows and we continue to stay ahead of our client, so they don't catch up with it. Because if your client catches up with you, they're leaving, they're going somewhere else where they can get help. The goal of the business owner and the CEO's goal is to keep in front of your client so they keep needing you, because it costs you more to acquire a new client than it does for you to keep one. Your business plan is all about how do we keep moving and how do we keep clients and how do we continue to grow them and ourselves.
Wow. Collette, you said, real quick, you said a lot of, just having your insight is amazing. Just hearing you speak from that perspective really helps. I know people that are listening to the show that are entrepreneurs who may not think they need a business plan. And then when they do hear about a one-page business plan, a lot of people are just hearing about that for the first time. And what we've noticed over the years is that people will look at the consolidated one-page business plan and think that it's just something you have to fill in the blanks. Oh, this is easy. It's only one page. I can just fill in the blanks. But when you talk about 3 years before you have your business plan, again, it goes back to the end user. It's going back to how much energy you're putting into understanding your market so that you can develop an actual effective one-page business plan. So those 3 years are the research needed to create the business plan. And I know that that's something that entrepreneurs struggle with. They'll say, I don't need a business plan. I just need money to come in my pocket. Well, the business plan has the strategy, and you can't just fill it in to say it's a task done. It actually serves an actual purpose. And the more you put in, the more you get out of it. But just hearing how you speak about it, it's really revealing how your services and having a coach and that different perspective or mentorship can adjust the whole trajectory of an entrepreneur, because it now it's like what comes in is what comes out. So if you're just talking to your peers who are struggling like you're struggling and giving you one-off ideas, that's where you're going to go. But then reaching out and having experts such as yourself that's able to open that dialogue up, explain why those things are so necessary. It's just evident why the trajectory and the results are going to be different as well. So you're just constantly amazing. I'm going to throw that into every time I get a chance to talk.
Thank you. So can I share something with you guys? So I went to Atlanta. I was supposed to go last year for a branding photo shoot because my favorite photographer lives there and he's awesome. And so I refused to let anybody shoot me but him. And so I had an opportunity to go and I got stuck for an extra week because somebody froze Texas, right? But this is what happened. So my father's twin lives there, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I say that all the time. My father, my aunts, uncles, grandparents, mother, all of them were. And this particular aunt, very successful salon owner, never had less than 10 chairs in her salon, and they were always full. And I always talk about her and my father being 64 years old and her working part-time at Walmart and part-time at JCPenney's. And the tragedy in that. And she still does some hair, but physically, she can't really stand behind that chair anymore. Well, Tehran, you said something important. If I need to make money, and if it makes money, then I'm going to do it. My family was very, very good at making money. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner is not just about making money. It is about building something that one will sustain itself and then you on the back end. And so the blessing for me in being stuck and being made to be still in that space is I got to have a lot of conversation with her about what the next step was. And she didn't necessarily know what the next step was outside of being in the chair. And I said, being behind the chair, I talked to her about becoming a coach. And while I tell the story all the time about her having 10 chairs, she explained to me why 10 chairs is important. I never knew she was being strategic about that and why it was important and why it caused her to have the level of success she had with her salons. But what she didn't know is business plan. She had her business. She's had her business longer than I've been alive and never had a corporate filing.
Wow.
How does that happen?
Crazy.
Right?
But popular. Crazy, but popular.
Very popular. And I see it all the time. That's the importance of a coach. One of the pastors I listen to on Sundays is Pastor Michael Todd. And he talked yesterday about having a coach. And I thought, it almost blew my mind. Like I had to take a step back and go, wait, did he just say what I thought he said? Because what we'll do if we decide we're going to go play baseball or football, or our kids are going to go play it, the very first thing we do is find a coach. But when we get into business, we go, I don't need that. Well, how do you know the plays? How do you know the plays to run? You don't know that.
Right. I want to try and real quick and say one more thing that you mentioned, piggybacking off of what you said. You said if you don't like change, entrepreneurship just isn't for you, right? And Carlton spoke about this earlier, how we went through 3 different changes as far as our target market, and we laid in the lane for about a year each and built all of the messaging, everything, then had to retract because the market is king. The market tells you which direction you should be going in, not your emotional attachment to your product or service because of how much time you put in. So by saying that, you have to embrace change in order to be an entrepreneur. It really, really reminds me, I should say, of that component it's almost like the differentiating factor. Are you willing to grow, evolve, and change? Are you willing to find out new data and apply the new data to make sure that you have the best opportunity, the best product or service, the best value proposition for your end user? Now, I want to speak from an entrepreneur that may be listening's perspective. I'm hearing all of this deep dive into learn the market. Does focusing so much on your end user really matter if you know you have a product or service that everybody uses? Let's say I want to sell water. Like you said, I can throw a rock and hit 50 people selling t-shirts. So if I have me a e-commerce store, I have good pricing on the my merch that I'm getting. I have a good markup ratio. How much I have to do? I'm starting to see that because we all know from the entrepreneur's perspective, once the money starts getting generated, I'm not really focused on all the other stuff because that money can be the illusion of sustainability through the cloak of subjective success. So does it really matter, I guess is the question.
Yes, I love that.
If I have a product that I know wins. What are you going to say, Natalie?
I love that question because that's been the biggest thing that I've wanted feedback on, Collette, is what if water's my passion, right? What if that's the passion, but the market research isn't there? What would the feedback be on that? Right? But I love water. I love those t-shirts. That's what I want to sell. That's what drives me.
Let me ask you this, Natalie. Do you like Perrier water? The seltzer water? Yeah. You do?
Yeah.
How about you, Ron and Carl? Do you like seltzer water?
I don't like anything carbonated.
Right? Just because water is your passion doesn't mean I like your water. Some people like spring water. Some people like alkaline water. Just because it's water doesn't mean everybody likes it. Here's 3 questions you always have to ask yourself constantly. Number 1, do they need what I have? If the answer is yes, move forward. Next question. Do they want what I have? If the answer is yes, move forward. If the answer is no, find out why. And lastly, all 3 of these questions have to be answered. You cannot move forward to the next question unless you get a yes. The last question, do they have the provision to pay for it? Right? Voss water might be $3 a bottle, and it might be delicious. And I may love it and I may want it, but I don't have $3 to give you.
Right.
So does it matter at the end of the day? Do they need what you have? Do they want what you have? Do they have the provision to pay for it? One of the things that Carl and Tehran both have talked about, which is why I love you guys, and which is why I love Pillar 5 so much, because I see it inside of the software every time I go in there. You all have done something very important that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. Spend a year. If it's a new idea, spend a year. Don't start another idea until you spent 12 months with this one. Right? Spend a year. You don't know what the possibilities are with this particular idea unless you spend a year. And then guess what? At the end of that 12 months, it's going to require that you make an adjustment. When we create a strategic plan with our clients, we make them focus concentration. Spend a year on this one audience. the thing I love about the business plan, and Carl, you asked this question earlier, is how do they know where to start with market research? Do a one-page business plan. The very first section it's going to ask you is, who are your customer segments? Who are the people that you should be answering, need what you have, want what you have, and have the provision to pay for it? Those should be your customer segment definitions, right? You should define your customer segment with those 3 questions. Now, you might have 5 or 6 or 3 or 4. Most people end up with 3 different customer segments. And then at the bottom of it, it's going to ask you, okay, well, which of these customer segments is easiest for you to get into? 9 times out of 10, your first customer segment is going to look just like you. They're going to look like you. They're going to sound like you. They're going to talk like you. They're going to walk like you. You know where you like to hang out at. You know what you like. You know how you want people to communicate with you. You know where you want people to communicate with you at. So you're the easiest one. Anybody like you, in whatever those customer segments is, the first one is gonna be the one that's easiest for you to get into. It might not even be the one you're talking to right now. That one might be really hard to get into. But once you can figure that out, then the next thing is, well, what are you going to solve for them? Right? I know this thing by heart. What are the 3 problems you're going to solve for them? And then what 3 solutions do you have to solve these problems? Connecting solutions to these problems. So you're not just out here doing stuff. You're not just out in these streets, opening your coat because you got watches and necklaces on each side trying to get anybody to buy it. No, you know who you're talking to. You know who you're talking to. You know what problem you solve for them. You know what solutions you have. Those first 3 boxes are absolutely pertinent. You know why? Because when you create a commercial or an explainer video, when you're on an interview, when somebody asks you to come and speak, those are the things you're talking about. You're using the language of your customer segments, and you're telling them what their problems are, and you're telling them how you solve those problems. That in itself changes the game. One-page business plan. I just did 3 steps. That's it. Now, should you do all the steps? Absolutely. But the first 3 steps is what gets you to where you want to be. But notice that they said, okay, take one of those customer segments. Don't try to go sell to everybody. Spend 12 months on this customer segment, because guess what? If my customer is female business owners who have been in business for 5 years or more, and they're making $65,000 in their business, if that's who my customer segment is, now I need to be reading books written by them, written to them, books. I need to find out what their top 3 problems are, reading books on those top 3 problems and how to solve them. I'm spending 12 months becoming an expert in you. That's what all good businesses do, which is why you see products on the end caps, because they've done their research and they understand their customer, which is why the best products, when you put products in the store, it costs you more to have your product at eye level for the average height of an American person. It costs more to have your product at eye level because they've done the research and said if it's right there, they're more apt to pick it. If they got to look up or down, they're going to look here first and then they'll look up or down. Market research is going to tell you that. Understanding your customer is going to tell you that. If you are not spending any time researching them, becoming an expert in them, understanding their problem, becoming an expert in their problem. Do you see how I just rattled off the one-page business plan?
Right.
I ain't even looked at the thing. I don't need to, because I'm an expert at what I do. I spent time understanding each of those boxes and why they're important. Because now the reason why people pay me the money they pay me, because anybody can go do a one-page business plan. But nobody can tell you how customer segment and problems and solutions can now become your unique value proposition. And now how you can take this and create your commercial. And now how you create the tagline that goes on your business card and on your website. And what experts you should be listening to based on these. That's what I do. Anybody can do it on their own. But do you get that additional piece that experts who've spent the time can tell you? The goal is to find an expert, because everybody who calls themselves a coach is not an expert.
Yes, Collette Portis dropping it like it's hot. That's some great Feedbacks. I love it, right? So we're going to segue into a quick break and then get back in today's topic.
Awesome.
I use Collette Portis' goalie system, but don't take my word for it. Hear it from others who know it works.
So the goalie system and Collette helped me develop a plan for my business, a very systematic approach to growing my business, and it helped me find clarity as to who I serve and what it is exactly that I do.
Goalie provided me clarity on my business and helped me put together a structure to actually implement a plan that would make our business successful.
I experienced Collette through the MBA for CEOs, and one of the tools they used was her goalie book and subsequent workbook. And I will have to say that that system that she created is, quite frankly, ingenious.
Are you ready to grow your team, increase your revenue, and build your legacy? Let Goalie guide you to success. Order your Goalie bundle today at Amazon.com or ColettePortis.com.
All right.
Okay, we're
back. Welcome back, Better Your Business Show. Today's topic, product and market research. We have Collette Portis here going over that subject with us today. You just dropped us with some awesome feedback before the break. And what I love so much about today's topic and about having you on the show is so many times in entrepreneurship, the mindset is figure it out, fail forward, and we're wasting time, we're wasting resources doing that. And so now with Pillar 5, right, we have this proven software to show us where we're at, what do we need to do to get next level, experts like yourself that we can leverage to help us do that, right? And so I love that so much. Thank you for being with us here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I want to just take one quick second and say a quick shout out to our collaborating partners that have helped make the Better Business Show even possible, and that's the LA Tribune. Natalie Forrest and Mo Rock have done an amazing job of allowing this to happen. So if you're catching this live and you want to catch the replay, you can catch it on demand on Roku at the LA Tribune TV, as well as you can always come over to pillar5.com. And in there, you can take your assessments. You can find out what life cycle stage your business is in. And you can start growing your business. And then you can get with coaches like Collette Portis and Natalie Essman that can help you grow to the next level, because every business are based off of what we call 5 pillars, right? So there's infrastructure, management, marketing, finance, and credit. And today the subject is marketing. And so again, thank you, Collette, for being with us and having this discussion on market demand and research.
Absolutely. I can't think of a group better to have this discussion with.
Awesome. I only have 2 words: end user.
Yes.
Changes the game.
You know, Tayron, one of the things that I, for our clients, when they come to us, oftentimes when they've worked with us for 30 days, which really means that they've spent 2 hours with me, they come to realize that their marketing tools, their website, their social media page, things like that are not right. And they need to change them because they're not communicating with the people that they needed them to communicate with. And we don't let them do it for at least the first 90 days. And the reason why we don't let them do it for the first 90 days is because we have to first determine who are you talking to, and give them some time to go and try and interact with that audience to make sure that that's who they want to talk to. That's why the year is important, because I'll give a perfect example. A lot of people go, oh, I want a contract with the government. Well, do you really? You know, do you have 30 to 90 days of capital set aside to float you because they don't pay for 30 or 90 days? Do you have that? Do you want to meet their demands? We submitted for a contract recently that required that we do a 25% give back. So 25% of the funds that we were asking for, we had to give 25% of that in kind. Can your business afford to do that? Mm. How do you know yes or no if you can or if you can't do that? You have to really spend some time with the customer in order to figure out whether or not they're who you want to serve. You might not want to serve them, or you might not want to serve them in that way. And so it's always important to slow down. Everything is about speeding up. And one of my mentors, my late mentors, but he was so amazing and he taught me so much. He would always say, fast don't last, but slow is for show. And so many of us want to move fast. So many of us want to go viral. So many of us want to, get to 5 million Instagram followers and sell $1 million worth of product in a day or two. So many of us want to do that. But what so many of us don't know is once you do that, then it's done. You rode the wave and the wave is over. Okay. And so now what? How do I turn this into a sustainable business? And one of the greatest issues, we're talking about market, but how do you even reach your market if you don't know what to do with your money? You're out here spending money on, you got merch, you got, all kinds of stuff that is not going to get you to your customer. And what I've been seeing since the pandemic hit is there's this infusion of capital that our government has been pushing into businesses. And the problem has been businesses not knowing what to do with that money. Are they doing things in their business that at some point are going to be necessary? The answer is yes. But what you're doing with that money, if you got a $50,000 loan through EIDL, what do you do with that $50,000? What you spent that $50,000 on, was it on those things that was going to get you the quickest return? Or was it those things that was going to take a really long time to get you to the money? How many steps did you need to take to get to the return? If it's going to take you more than 5 steps to get to the return, then that's not what you do with that money. If it's going to take you 2 or 3 steps to get to the return, then that's what you do with that money. I'll give an example because it might not make sense the way I said it. An example is if you got $50,000 in your business through the stimulus packet, take some of that money, take 30,000 of it. Yeah, I know it was 50. Take 30,000 of it and spend it on a great marketing agency. Because the marketing agency, which is going to bring the customer in, because that's what marketing does. Marketing brings people into your business to spend money. That's marketing. Branding pushes information out of your business to develop your reputation in the marketplace. Most people think those words are synonymous. They're not. Marketing, we should be spending a significant amount of money on. As you can see, look at McDonald's. They're still marketing. They're spending a significant amount of money on marketing. But we all know who they are. 9-month-old babies cry when you drive past their sign, right? Marketing is a good place to spend that money. Don't spend that money on buying new uniforms. If you need a new truck so that you can cater, you can do more catering jobs, and that's a good place. That's 1-2 steps to get you to more money. A new truck allows you to do more catering. That's 2 steps. A marketing plan. You pay your marketing agency, they push the information out, you made more money. 3 steps. If it takes you 5 steps, you spent the money on the wrong thing.
I got a quick question for you, Collette, as we get closer to the end of the show. And viewers, as you're listening, if you have any questions or comments, by all means, please key them into the live feed, and we'll go ahead and post them up here so we can get Collette's feedback on your questions. Whether it's directly with your business, whether it's direct with market research, or is any question at all. Just not how to bake an apple pie. I don't know if she can answer that. But I have a question for you, and is, what is Goalie and who is it for exactly?
That's a good question. So Goalie stands for Grafting Objectives Around Longevity in Entrepreneurship. A mouthful, which is why we use the acronym Goalie. But here's the thing. Who is Goalie for? Goalie is for the goalie of your business. If you know anything about soccer, the goalie has an absolute important role. Do they run up and down the field? No, not at all. They have a very small space that they go back and forth through. If you are the CEO of your company, if you're the real CEO of your company, you have a very small space in which you function. You're not running the ball up and down the field. That's not what you do. That's what your team does. But as the CEO of your company, your goal, your job is to make sure nobody scores on you, right? Your job is to keep an eye on the entire field so you know what is going on the field so you can prevent things from happening, prevent things from getting into your goal that shouldn't be in your goal. You're protecting the company, but you're keeping the vision of the company at the same time. Goalie is for business owners, entrepreneurs who really want to become a business owner. If your title is CEO, but you're not being the executive of your business, then that's who Goalie is for. Goalie is for those people who say, all I have is $100. I can't afford to hire a coach. You can order Goalie on Amazon. Go to Amazon, order Goalie, order the bundle, order both books, create your strategic plan. Now, it's not going to look like the one you would create with me, but you'll still have something. Create your strategic plan and then use the tactical planner to track your progress, to create key performance indicators or KPIs. We've done that work for you. So you don't have to do that for yourself. Now, will other KPIs come up? Absolutely. But Goalie is for the one who really wants to succeed. If all you want to do is make money, I'm going to just be honest. Goalie ain't for you because it takes work. It requires that you do some work, and it requires that you do some significant work.
We have another question from our team, and it's what is the importance of your clients focusing on their end users when they're using Goalie? If they have the Goalie bundle, how does that help them with their end user focus? Excuse me.
As a business owner and entrepreneur, the number one thing you have to remember is that you are a servant. Nobody is here to serve you. You are here to serve. And so if you're a servant, you have to have people to serve. Your end user is always the focus, right? It doesn't matter how good, when Ray Kroc started McDonald's, the food was really good. But now the food ain't that good, right? But guess what? They still focus on their end user, because if you ask 10 people who McDonald's markets to, they're going to tell you it's the kids. Right. They tell us adults some stuff every now and then, but it really is the kids, because they know if we stop at McDonald's to get the kids some food, we might think we're going to go somewhere else. But once we get in the drive-thru, we like, you know what, forget it. Just give me a fish sandwich. I'm tired. I'm going home. Right?
Gotcha. And we got a question in from Kirk Nugent, who sent in a question and said, would you consider hiring a PR company the same as marketing?
Good question, Kirk. The answer is no. A PR company, when we hire a PR company, when we do PR stuff, PR is getting you into magazines. PR is writing press releases. PR is that kind of stuff. Marketing, that's not necessarily about bringing customers in. You don't want to confuse the two. PR is a part of that branding piece where you're helping people understand who you are. You're building your reputation. That's what that PR piece is. Marketing is specific. hey, I got a Big Mac. It's going to cost, you can get 2 for $5. Come buy it. That's marketing. We want to know what it's going to cost us. We want to know how to sign up. PR doesn't necessarily do that. But most people, a lot of people use PR for that purpose and it fails. So we'll write a press release to say, hey, I got a new coaching program. It's $12,000. Sign up on my website, press release. And it gets picked up by nobody because that's not press, right? How often do you see on the news they talk about price? Unless somebody is gouging prices, they don't really talk about that. They're giving you information. It's about getting information out to the public. That's what PR is. Public relations, not selling. Marketing is about selling. PR, branding is about public relations, building relationships, building your image, building your brand, all of that stuff. Marketing is about money.
Awesome.
Ron, we can't hear you.
We can't.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say, you said two things that I really want to bring a little light to. How marketing, branding, and sales are three different components. Marketing is part of sales, but it's not sales. Branding is part of marketing, but it's not marketing. And again, having that insight to be able to look at it objectively, have an expert give that information is what's invaluable to entrepreneurs trying to crystallize their goals and dreams. And the second thing you said earlier, I didn't get to mention it, was when focusing on the end user. How when you focus on the end user, you can take your same one product and you can create the multiple streams of revenue around that one product, because now you're focusing not on the product, but on how many ways you can service your end user. So always providing service tends to come back and to turn into profit in a certain way. I think that's one of the most invaluable things about having someone like a coach a business development coach that can guide you in that way. And it makes me want to ask this last question. I'll leave that to say, so is there a difference in a coach such as yourself and a consultant who says that they provide the same service? And what is the difference? Is it that serious to even be different?
Yes, it absolutely is. A lot of times we complicate coach when we're talking about business in our mind. A consultant is going to be like if you hired a family counselor. They're not going to tell you what to do in your family. They're going to keep asking you questions. So why do you think that happened? So what can you do differently? That's what a consultant does. They're looking to see, okay, so let's walk through this. Let's process this to see how we got to this point, and helping you to figure it out on your own, what steps you need to take. That's a consultant. They're consulting with you on what needs to happen or change. A coach, it's simple. Think about basketball, football, hockey, whatever. Phil Jackson is always my go-to example. I am the Phil Jackson of business. I'm not running the field. I don't dribble the ball unless we're in practice and I have to teach you how to dribble the ball. But in the game, I'm not dribbling the ball, right? So guess what? I'm not going to create your strategy for you, but I'm going to train you on how to do that.
Right.
And if you're doing something, you're putting something in your strategy that is not the right play, then I'm going to come back and say, oh, okay, we need to adjust that play and we need to write it this way. We need to do it this way. That's what a coach does. We call the plays, we make adjustments, we help you to understand when and how to pivot. Natalie talked about that very early on. When and how do you pivot? And then we're going to determine who your components are. I mean, who your competition is, or who your client is. Because a lot of times in business, right, we're the LA Lakers playing the local high school team. And we can't understand why, one, they don't understand, two, they don't appreciate us, and three, they don't see the value in paying us. Well, you got Kobe playing with the local high school. Why? Because when you made the pivot, that's the audience you pivoted to. No, if you're a pro, you need to play the pros. If you're a high school team, you need to play high school team. How do you know that if you haven't clearly defined your audience and you haven't tested your market? Going right back to what we talked about earlier, there's some very important things that you have to do in order to make sure you're in the right place. And I see business owners frustrated every single day because they are the pros, but they're trying to sell to the high school team every single day. Or I see people who are the high school team pricing themselves as the pros, and business owners walk away with less than they had when they got there.
Awesome. Collette, we got to have you back on the show because Tehran brought up a subject right at the end that needs a true hour of dialogue. And we actually ran over our time. So really quick, Collette, tell people how they can get in contact with you. I've got your little banner running across the bottom so everybody can see down below how to reach Collette Portis on her reddevelopmentgroup.com. But is there any other place they can reach out to you? What do you want them to know before you leave us today?
Here's what I want you to know. Yes, there's other ways you can reach out to me, which is reddevelopmentgroup.com. That link you see at the bottom is our Linktree link that has all of the links, all of our social media links, all of that stuff, our YouTube channel link, all of that, if you go to that link. But if you want to go to our company website, that is reddevelopmentgroup.com, or our secondary link is redwomen.win. So no .com, it's .win. So redwomen.win. What I want people to know is our goal at Red Development Group is to create a coaching community that is giving entrepreneurs and business owners what they need. And so what we are rolling out here in the next couple of months is a certification for coaches, which is going to mean that we're going to share our clients with those coaches. We are going to train those coaches. We're going to allow them to use our curriculum that has helped our clients over the last 4 years triple, double, and quadruple their revenues. And then they will be a part of a community that will support them in growing their own businesses as well. Because unfortunately, one of the dilemmas in the coaching industry is not a lot of coaches are growing their businesses, but they're really good at growing their clients' businesses. So we want to resolve the top 3 issues in the coaching industry, but we also want to help you build the best business, because it is our belief that all of us have greatness in us. All of us do. There's not one person that is not great. And we want to help you to tap into that greatness and then provide it to the world, because I need you. We need you. We all need each other, because nothing great has ever happened with one person.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Collette. It's been awesome having you here this morning. Thank you so much.
On behalf of that Better Business Show and everyone watching, may the rest of the year be the very best of your year. Get mentors, get coaches, pursue your passion, provide value, and solve problems. Thank you very much, Collette.
Well, thank you, Collette, for joining us. It was awesome having you here. And obviously, thanks all the guests for coming out. So, Tehran, before we wrap the show up really quick, what was your takeaway from today's show?
I don't have a takeaway. I have a bunch. I have so much, But one thing that did jump out to me, again, I'm thinking of the entrepreneur that's listening and hearing the coach talk. And it's like, well, I have water. I'm sure I don't need to do all of that research. And how it's only an injustice to yourself as an entrepreneur if you're not thinking about the end user, if you're not thoroughly doing a market study. Because all it does is it helps you provide that service or solution even better. And money your profits are directly attached to that. So it's so difficult. I know we went through the process, so we know exactly what it's like to go a year straight on one particular package. Then we changed from entrepreneurs to business coaches, and from business coaches to business support organizations, and from business support organizations back to this one. And it can pull people's hair out that's sitting back watching. But it's really understanding that is the due diligence when creating a true system that's going to provide a true solution. So yeah, this just focusing on the end user and how it actually benefits you in more ways than one. The more that you do that, I really got that from Collette today.
Natalie, what's your takeaway on this?
I would say the biggest takeaway was going through the evaluation, the 5-pillar evaluation, and seeing the results of the evaluation, especially being an entrepreneur for 16 years. I think it was great feedback. Sometimes we think we're farther along in the game than we are, or sometimes we think, the end of our destination is so far away. So I love that I had real analytics with where I was at. But what was exciting, I didn't like the results. I swear, I thought there was like a glitch in the system. But what that ended up doing for me was created new possibilities, right? It completely expanded my vision, because it's like, okay, this is where I'm at. These are the steps I need to take to get next level. And it really helped to bridge that gap, because it's now I know where I'm going. Now I know what I need to do. I just have to follow the play. And that got me excited. Definitely stretched my vision of what's possible. And now I feel like my end goal for the year needs to be my monthly goal. And now I have exactly what I need to do that.
Awesome. So again, if you're just catching us live or you're catching us on demand, make sure you go to pillar5.com, where you can take your free assessment. For those of you who take an assessment, we'll bring you in as a guest, and you'll get to ask our experts questions as they come in and join us live. And you get to feature your business and promote your business and plug your business to our audience, which will be here on live with Facebook Live, through all the channels, as well as on Roku channel, thanks to our contributing partner, which is the Los Angeles Tribune, who supports this channel and will be putting it there on their Roku channel. And again, we want to thank Collette Portis from Red Development for joining us. If you don't have the goalie book, go to Amazon.com, get the whole bundle, and you can get started on your own. And if you need a coach, Collette Portis and Red Development is also there, as well as Natalie Essman. She is a financial coach, so she can help you out. Tehran is a sales coach. He helps you in the sales department, as well as, more importantly, does he help you on the sales side? He'll help you guide you through the Pillar 5 aspect.
Yeah, so, I'm just busy right now.
Why would you say
that? But Carl, I want to ask you, what did you take away from Collette today?
What I took away is, they say wisdom is incommunicable. And so sometimes you have to experience a thing in order to be able to reiterate what you learned. And so some of the things that we learned in Bill and Pillar 5 was that we have to keep going back to the drawing board. And for me, I felt like I wasn't making progress. I felt like I was running into a wall and I wasn't doing something right. And then after hearing Collette speak, it was more like, no, you're actually doing it exactly the right way. You were supposed to run into the wall. You're supposed to come back to the drawing board. So what it did was reassure me that the processes that we were going through were the right processes. And the beauty of that is that those processes are laid out in Pillar 5. But the reality is that you just don't figure it out in one shot. It takes, it's kind of like in the military. You don't just adjust your weapon one time and then go out and become a marksman. You have to fire it a few times and then get it right, get your sight right, and get you lined up. And then it's like, oh, I got this. This is easy. But you still have to keep coming back, right? Because your eyes change, temperature changes, all this other stuff. Anyway, so my big takeaway was continue going back to the drawing board. If you think you have what it takes to get into the market, check with your market and let them tell you what it is that you have and whether or not they want it. And if they want it, how they want it. Not just the fact that they want it, how they want it packaged, how they want it presented, and what they want to pay for it. That's what I took away from Collette, and I thank her so much for joining us today.
Yes.
Wow.
Awesome.
Collette said that if you haven't taken the Pillar 5 assessment, you should do it right now, because we do nothing with clients until that happens. So when Collette gets on a client, she puts them through Pillar 5 first.
Absolutely.
Because she's making sure she's going to service that client the best way she can. That was awesome. Thank you very much, Collette. And thank you for reaffirming that we're on the right path to complete our mission statement, which is to stop the death rates of small businesses nationwide. It is doable. Only thing you can't do is what you won't do. Make the decision and just do it. Don't stop till you win.
We got to say one more time, we got to get ready to get out of here. We've actually went over time for today's show. And as always, pleasure. It's great to have an expert come in and speak to the audience. Even though, we have our expertise, but bringing in that extra expert really helps the audience to get other dynamics and other insight from people who are actually in the industry and that are doing it. So again, join us every Monday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join us every Monday. We're going to bring on the next expert. I believe the next subject is going to be on business plans, which actually came up in this subject. Or it might not be. We might surprise you. We don't know who we're going to have next. Who do we know? We might be having Mark Cuban in here. We don't have a clue who we're going to have up here. At the end of the day, go take your assessment, get on board, join us live, ask your questions, and let's get your business to the next level. Thank you for joining us all. It's a pleasure.